Welcome back, everyone. This is Into the Nexus, the podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. I'm Garrett, here as always with Kyle Fergusson. Happy April Fool's Day, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, wonderful. This show is not going to make a fool of anybody. In fact, I will say that I like the fooling. It's the collateral fools that drive me insane.
I was about to say you will find no such jokes or pranks on this program.
Yeah.
I think the only joke this week is the Heroes of the Storm community.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. Let me set this up for anybody who doesn't know what happened this week, because it's a bit of a doozy, and Reddit's entirely to blame for making themselves sad. It's a great
Okay,
story.
all right. I think I might actually have a mild defense of Reddit, but go ahead.
Okay, so picture this. The season is set to end in Storm League in 1 week. Everyone's getting real excited. April 1st, April Fool's Day is coming up. So in anticipation of the upcoming update, whatever it may be, whether it's the spring event, a new balance, something or other, maybe a new hero, maybe reworks, either way, this 1 week mark, the end of the season, possibly the end of the winter event, is in game, ready to go. So Reddit starts making up all this content. Blackthorn's on the way. Check out this PTR screen I caught before it went down, and look at this thing that happened in game. Oh, a grenade hit the wall. How weird. What's this? And everyone's eating it up, and everyone's like, oh man. And a couple of cautious people are like, remember, it's April 1st, don't get too excited. Oh, no, we don't care. Content's on its way. And then, without any word from the devs, which they've never really given word in the first place, they don't really alert us of this, but they went and extended the season by 6 weeks. 6 more weeks of winter hit. And suddenly the Reddit and the Heroes of the Storm community sinks into a deep sadness.
Here's my defense, Kyle. Here's my defense. We wouldn't be so quick to buy into this bull if there was any communication from the Heroes team whatsoever right now.
It's a rough situation for sure. They're going to show up and say the same thing they have for a long time. We're not ready to show you what we have yet. We're really excited about X and Y coming down the pipeline. Can't wait to share with you in the future. But many people are calling to maybe there should be some sort of community outreach that just knocks this stuff down a little bit. It's like, no. Oh, that was fun, but you didn't get it right. Oh, that's a fun idea, but not this time. Just a little something to counter this overwhelming amount of hype that we made for ourselves. We're responsible for our own sadness today.
All right, listen, I am positively perturbed by the April foolery leading up to this, because I bought into that fake PTR pixelated Heroes logo.
Sure.
Which I guess by way of that, I'm complimenting whoever made it. Good job. That looked very on brand. You got me.
Yeah, it was. It
but
was
also
actually a zoomed in bit of the Blackthorn screen. Like that I was able to confirm with my own eyeballs that they did not make that unique in the background. But the logo was different than the previous Heroes of the Storm pixel ones we've seen in the past. So someone put a little bit of work into that, and it looked pretty nice. And boy, I'd be really excited about a pixel event. That'd be great.
I would too. But yeah, I just come back to, boy, things are quiet.
Sure.
Things are really, really quiet. And it is a haven for tomfoolery like this to actually take root. So
hungry are we that we'd believe anything.
Yes, so hungry are we to not see Chromie in every game.
Well, that's a little bit of the exacerbation going on right now, because there are a lot of really, really powerful heroes, in particular, the damage department. I'm not talking about assassins. We got Sonya running wild too right now. This game is being decided by top damage, which, congratulations. Everyone who ever played Quick Match is now able to accurately predict the game. But it is actually happening. There are good heroes that deal tons and tons of damage without caveats. And then there are heroes that can deal lots and lots of damage, like Mephisto and Kael'thas and even Jaina, if the enemy team groups or clumps or does something wrong. The problem is Chromie, Cassia, Tychus to an extent, but Falstad, Sonya just do stupid amounts of damage right now. And if you don't pick those heroes, you have a very high chance of losing, regardless of double soaking and mercenary camps and proper objective timings and all that sort of stuff pales in comparison to just throughput on heroes that do not have those particular, if two heroes are hit, or what if this happens, or what if you aim this really well. So people have become a little frustrated at the current state of things. This has also led to an outbreak of off-tanking, like off-tanks, like non-warrior tanks and Arthuses and just weird tank situations because Johanna can't survive out there. ETC can't live through the damage that these particular heroes are putting out. We're even seeing a lot of Tyraels and that sort of business just to try to recover from the sheer throughput of our meta heroes. And Falstad's bugged, which is all causing this absolute descent of requests on the devs to break their silence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with the community on this one, dude. I think it's been too quiet for too long. The game's been too samey for too long. Even like, you sold me on the last patch, but now it's like, I don't know, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? Like the last patch was good, but it wasn't good for a patch that's having this long of a tail.
I can see that.
But it's hard to know that at the time, right? We don't know how long it's going to last. We had a feeling it's going to last a while because of how quiet the game's been post-Hogger. But, well, here we find ourselves. And I think typically this is where someone like me who plays more than one game, like finds refuge in other games. But Hearthstone aside, sure. This is like the landscape everywhere. Which might be a defense of heroes, but also I came to expect a surprising amount from heroes during previous tumultuous times of this game's existence. Like I'm seeing a lot of interesting things coming from the more flexible teams, right? Like I said, Hearthstone aside, right? World of Warcraft is going nowhere fast. It's like a boat without wind in the sails. It's just kind of sitting there stagnantly with what is going to be the longest time between launch of an expansion and its first patch in the history of the games, like ever. And then there's Overwatch, and then like don't even get me started on things like Diablo, right? Like even just within Blizzard, let alone everything else. We're in spring. We usually have our delayed Christmas games all releasing right now, and there's nothing from a major studio. Things that are blowing things up are smaller studio releases right now. Even you and I have been playing a little bit of Valheim. So I guess my point is like right now, I look at the kind of landscape of kind of stagnant new game going-ons, especially from major studios, because I don't think major studios are the ones that are flexible enough to contend with what just happened in 2020.
Sure.
They're very set in their ways. They are large conglomerates that are not good at changing direction on a dime. Within Blizzard, the smaller teams kind of are, or the more, I don't know, the scrappier teams, even if they're not small. Hearthstone's not a small team, but it's still churning out frequent new updates, and it's just kind of because that's always been their bag. World of Warcraft has always kind of marched to its very steady drum. Hearthstone's kind of really, and especially in recent years, been one of the more flexible teams. I felt that way about the Heroes team, like post-HGC, because we were all of us included, were like, this is it. This is the end of the game we love. And it didn't. It went on to live a crazy, frequently updated life post the cancellation of Heroes of the Storm Esports. And so in a certain way, I guess, I don't know, I was hopeful because up until this point they proved to be like to be able to turn out way more content than I thought they were ever going to be able to for everything post 2018. So I came into this still a little hopeful that we were going to have like a regular cadence, the word we don't like using, and we're not. It's just, I guess we are, but the new one is it's just slow. It is, the new updates for this game are just few and far between now.
Well, let's go back to your original topic about that patch, because we really had settled into a meta that was really fun for tanks. And there was a lot of really good stuff going on. The balance patch hits. It's right on the edge of like freshness. We're all getting a little frustrated with Sonya a bit here and there, but it hadn't permeated everywhere. It wasn't full blown. And I wanted to see that train ride a little bit longer. We got things like the Lily rework and the Tyrael rework, both of which have not made an impact in this extreme damage high system we have right now in our current meta. I'm not talking about like blow up. Like that's a whole nother thing. Like fights are long enough. They're fun. They're dynamic. It's not that you're just walking into a bush and you're dead because, you know, one Nova shot hit right. It's a healthy battle sphere. It just means drafting is really restricted and kind of small feeling.
Yeah.
And that's where we're looking for the game to be innervated.
That's, yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down. It's like the gameplay itself isn't the most punishing in a way, right? Because we've been in this front to back situation for a while, right? So it's like you see it coming. When you're about to die, you know you're about to die, and you have a few moments to actually adjust and do something about it. But you know, like you said, the draft is just boring. Is really what it comes down to.
It's frustrating, and this is exacerbated slightly by our really, really powerful bruisers, which are all first pick. So our draft system has kind of been flipped on its head in that way. You know, Rexar, Sonya, Hogger, Diva. There's not a lot of room for some others, which are still very powerful, but we want to see those things picked early. We might be going double bruiser frontline instead of a tank at all. So our dynamic duelers are looking at the game and saying, I used to like pay attention through this whole draft, and now I pick my hero for the map and I'm done. And I sit here through a draft. And then the tanks don't really have a dynamic system because they're just trying to survive. So they pick something survivable. Maybe they're like, oh, Johan, I have to survive this incoming onslaught. And they don't. They draft to survive and then they don't. So their gameplay kind of falls apart in that way. And then you might get that Mephisto instead of a Cassia, and well, now the rest of the team is. It's an interesting state. I put it alongside like a frustrating house cat. You guys are it's your buddy sometimes. It's a good friend sometimes. You're petting them. You're just chilling. You want to hang out. Oh, you start watching the movie a little bit. You space out, and you didn't really realize maybe you over pet that ear, and just they turn and bite you. And like what was that? What was that, heroes? Why'd you bite me? But fine, you're just gonna go down now. I'm not cool with that. Why would you do this to me? That's not cool.
Are you saying that Heroes is telling you it's done?
No, I'm saying that Heroes needs you and Heroes here. The cat named Heroes might need some time apart, and that's perfectly fine. And it is frustrating from a love standpoint of the game to have any conversation about dead game again here when you personally are frustrated. Not you personally, but the people in general. I'm frustrated too.
Proverbial
I got
you.
bit by that cat. Yeah. I did 7 bruiser games this week, and I lost all of them. And granted, that's an anomaly, and it's not the best sample size in the world, but double soaking, taking merc camps was not how these games were going to be won at all. I went on to switch over to Tychus, had a grand old time, won some games, feeling much better now.
Well, you were also knocking on Master's door, right? So like you're up at the point where, yeah, of course that's not going to be enough. That's a given. It is expected that you're not missing soak. You're not messing up your macro. You need to bring
it's the other 4 people that have the impact on that game at the end of the day. So there's another system that might need tuning, and that again puts us back in that headspace of, well, you said after you changed the wells that there were going to be more map updates. You said that this and that was going to happen, so they've gone quiet. Can't blame them for it, particularly after a year of working at home. I mean, look at how like hard it is to just communicate. We have a bonanza tonight, and people love to say, oh, they're on comms, they're going to win. No, not if we've never used those comms before. And that's what's happening over at Blizzard right now. They spent a year on comms, and well, the system didn't really hold up, and everything is slowed down in those ways. And maybe a more, maybe not binary is the right word, but a more routine system like Hearthstone, where the cards get made, they go out to the art person who does the art, then it comes back, and like that cross communication across so many teams to make a card game work just moved right into the future unfazed.
I mean, there's so many things, and we're only privy to so much, right? So
yeah, it could also be.
I don't really like speculating that. Yeah, that's why I was talking in kind of this general terms of like I looked at Hearthstone and the Heroes team as the flexible, scrappy teams at Blizzard that can respond quickly to things, and then everything else is not the case, especially what we're seeing right now with WoW and Overwatch. So,
which seems wild, but yeah, and then we get into like the systems that we don't understand too. Like, I don't think, in all honesty, I don't think that there's actually new players coming in this game who log in, see a quote unquote Christmas event going, and then go to Reddit and like, I'm a new player, and I, for one, believe that seeing a Christmas event in April is a sin. Like, no, that's clearly a troll. That's clearly somebody moonlighting, role playing as a new player who is upset that, yeah, in April, it's a winter event with Christmas Malfurion staring you in the face. And yes, that event does fire up again in 8 months, and that's a little weird. That's a bit odd and frustrating. And it's so easy for us to assume on the outside, just check the box. Just go in there and be like, Christmas event ends and begin the spring. But I bet you, like, imagine voice lines, right? Like May's voice lines on her Death Knight skin. Would love if she sounded a little more evil. But you know what actually happens? You probably don't grab voice effect and drag it onto May's folder and say, okay, done. You probably open all 100 of those darn audio files, apply echo, save, put in box, apply echo, save, put in box. Like, oh my God.
I mean, that's what we do before this podcast, right? We have inquisitive Kyle and Garrett, we have salty Kyle and Garrett, we have positive Kyle and Garrett, and we just copy paste whichever one into the show for the type of show we're looking to have.
Exactly. It's that formulaic and it's that simple.
Yeah, these aren't actually our faces you're looking at if you're watching on Twitch or YouTube. These are just really high-end VTuber models.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know why I didn't make myself look prettier.
I would have given myself anime glasses, but I couldn't make it work.
Super Saiyan hair.
There you go.
Yeah.
So we find ourselves waiting another 6 weeks. Is ultimately the story here.
Yeah. If I don't want to keep throwing challenges to everything, but if it's even if it's over then, if it doesn't get extended yet again,
that's a trust issue.
I mean, frankly, and this is not a new thing, I haven't trusted the end of season roll for over a year.
And good on you.
It's been complete bull for over
a
year. It is utterly meaningless.
Well, all I can really say is let that cat walk away for a bit, get some time, reclaim your lap. Hopefully they don't clean and clear view of you to drive you insane because their food bowl's empty or something like that. But let them wander off, and I bet you'll wake up tomorrow and that cat will be around. You'll be like, oh, Hero's cat, I love you, bud. Come on, pop on up.
You give it the old game. I'm going to log in. So what you're saying to have a better time with Heroes is take a break and then come back to it and go while I'm looking for a game.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. You got to give your Heroes of the Storm the you got to do it.
And play Blizzard Jaina. That's what I've been doing this week. It's a delight. It's all a quick match, so it's not like serious mode, but it is such an easy, simple, and oddly enough auto attack build. I just been having a grand time with it.
That's me and Lily, man. I'm just like, I love it. I love it. That's my favorite thing to come out of the last patch. It's great. They did such a good job. I'm all about it. Sign me up. Let me show you my water dragon, Kyle.
Okay.
Anyways, before we get into the news this weekend, there is some news. We want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. That's where you can go and support this program. This is the best way to support Kyle and myself. We are an independent podcast, and this is how we make money. So we appreciate it. Everyone going over there and deciding that we are worthy of your hard-earned dollar, or whatever the currency is called where you're supporting the show. Patreon's like showing me now. It's like pound sterling, and it changes now if people sign up from other countries. It's really cool.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh man, look at all the people in Europe listening to our silly heads. It's great.
We have an accent over there, you know.
We do. I don't really think of. Yeah, accents are relative, right? It's a relative concept. I'll start saying y'all more so I can remind you all where I live.
I've already got that covered. You don't have to.
I say y'all a lot.
Okay.
A lot. And I also thank our patrons a lot, but I'm not going to stop now. So thank you for the support, everybody. And to our most recent patrons, Glass Ankles, beware of that. That seems like a weak spot on a boss. Tom, no last name given, just simply Tom. And Jordan Whitelock, thank you very much for supporting the show. If you head over to patreon.com/ITN, maybe you haven't done it before, you're considering it, you will get access to our Discord feed. You will get an ad-free version of the show whenever we have ads, and you'll be able to sign up for our game nights, and we are doing one tonight. We call them the Patron Bonanzas, and as you mentioned, Kyle, we've got one tonight. So go check that out. And now let's talk this week's Heroes of the Storm news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
The moment is upon us.
Yes, I'd mana tap that.
How do you get that line? I've yet to hear that line in game. Is that one of the hidden ones?
I think you just click them a lot, yeah.
Okay, it's one of his pissed lines. Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. Because I'm like trying to think about it. I'm like, have I ever heard that in game?
No. It could, if it was like a kill line, it could get a little weird, so I think it's in the right place.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe a building destruction line would be slightly less creepy.
Maybe. It's in the right place, you know. Contextual over-clicking.
All right, Kyle, choose your own podcast adventure. Would you rather talk about CCL drama first or new HOTS developer first?
Oh, man. Oh, I always suck at these. I want to skip to the end and know which conversation's better first.
Do you at the end of the show, are you like, okay, I'm gonna tier list the conversations we just had on this podcast?
Sometimes, you know, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're like, oh, I got an ancestral Rhaegar wrong. Oh my god, I hope no one calls me out on it. And then you get back, like,
oh, good.
Let's do the new HOTS dev.
Okay, all right. So this made some waves on Reddit, and it does not appear to be an April Fool's joke, but getting a new producer on Heroes of the Storm. Tammy Sigmund tweeted, "Hello, #VisibleWomen. I'm late, but wanted to say hello. I've recently joined the team that runs Heroes of the Storm, Warcraft 3 Reforged, and StarCraft 1 and 2 as a senior game producer at Blizzard. Before this, Tammy worked at Zynga as a lead producer and Riot as a content producer. Tammy also had a follow-up tweet saying not to expect Heroes of the Storm updates on her Twitter account, that she mostly uses it for personal tweetage. So there it is. I realized I just went on a friggin' soapbox about how we need to be communicated with by the developers more, but I didn't mean this. Hello, welcome new developer to Heroes of the Storm team.
Of course, your personal Twitter account is not the place for you to please the fans. You're gonna hang out, maybe share pictures of your cat named Heroes.
I mean, even AZ Jackson didn't use his Twitter account for that. That's what Reddit was for.
Well, and he was showing off the other games he was playing, which, as we always talk about, having a proper gamer diet, and also just being a game designer, you should probably investigate what's hot and get some new ideas out there. I mean, what the heck is World of Warcraft going to look like with Valheim in the world next expansion? I bet you it's going to be influenced. It always is by whatever the trends are.
What is Blizzard's survival game going to look like in 15 years when they finally make it?
Exactly. When they make it big. So, but it is adorable, and it again showcases just how hungry we are that someone announced that they're part of the no longer called Classics team, but still mentioned Heroes of the Storm and working on it in any regard. And they got tons of followers and felt the need to be like, oh, hey, well, hold on, everybody. Like, of all the games, it's not like she said, I don't want to diss any Warcraft 3 fans out there. She calls out HOTS directly.
Yeah, like of all the stuff on here, right, is she mentioned in the tweet is HOTS, is Warcraft, is StarCraft, but in the follow-up being like, hey, don't expect updates on this game. The one specific game mentioned was HOTS, and so yeah, we're gonna get a little excited about this because again, there's just not that much going on, right? Like we are in a very we as the Heroes of the Storm community, I think we're all in a pretty sensitive spot right now. We're kind of looking at our game like, you okay? Are you okay over there, Heroes? Are you okay? Are you good? Are you good? Oh, new hire. Okay, cool. Whew. All right, new hire, everybody. Woo! New hire.
What's their name? Where do they work? What are they in charge of? Like, give me the deets. Well, I bet you senior game producer's a pretty busy job that has a lot of fingers and a lot of pies. So I doubt they would even be able to give you any information.
Yes. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, new developer, new producer over on there. Honestly, the big thing I took away from this is like, sure, sounds like the Classic team is alive and well. I think the whole thing about we're retiring our Classic division, I think it was really just getting rid of like the namesake. Because if someone was hired and they're on Heroes, they're on Warcraft 3, they're on 1 and 2 StarCraft, that's the Classic team. That's the Classic umbrella. Why'd we even bother making a big deal at all about getting rid of the name?
So they can beat it up in a corner? I have no idea.
I mean, we already knew that there were members of that there were Blizzard employees that worked on HOTS that worked on other games. And they were typically in that wheelhouse of maybe also Warcraft, maybe also StarCraft, so on and so forth. They haven't had a dedicated community manager forever, unfortunately. So,
but where's like Lost Vikings and all that being made, and the whole rock and roll racing thing? That's not a Classic game then.
Well, I mean, they are Classic games,
right? But they're not part of Classic. Like she doesn't.
Well, nothing's part of Classic. Classic is that's what I'm saying. Is like I just found it kind of interesting from a technical, the way Blizzard is structured way. Because
my assumption at this point has to be Diablo Immortal style. Like it was a perfectly fine game. Everybody who played it at BlizzCon actually played it, and everybody who's played it since has been like, yeah, mobile game. So I'm fine. This is fine. We enjoyed it. But we had to sacrifice that lamb so thoroughly in order to save face or conversation or something that we still haven't seen that game since. And that's all I can assume is the Classics game department was in such turmoil, was under such blame that they said, you know what? The name's to blame. It's that BattleNet symbol. That's what we need to drag out.
Oh,
Let's get a new BattleNet symbol. Because then everything will be different. Once we change the edges on the BattleNet symbol, all our problems will be solved.
I want it to look like Skype's logo in 2003.
Please.
I need it. I need it now. Why'd you have to bring that up, man?
Because it looks like it's something called, a Meritechnical Pharmaceutical something or other. Like it's just an evil looking logo. It's soulless. It's just useless.
It looks like a bad VoIP program to me, man. It looks like early aughts VoIP application.
You could practically hear like the cheery piano going, and maybe some like like people clapping in the background as people smiling in their all white rooms log into their corporate meeting online and nod approvingly as somebody with a little headset from 1990 talks into it because that's who you're getting on the phone. What the hell are these lies?
Am I gonna get a disc with free BattleNet time on it? Is that gonna come in the mail? 48 free hours of BattleNet time.
I'm not taking gift cards or battle time at this point. No.
Well, you can't, Kyle. You only have an option of 60 days if you're prepaying for your World of Warcraft time.
That was so miscommunicated. That's actually not as big of a deal as it seemed.
It actually negatively affected the people who
Who use that system, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and a lot of the people that use that system are people who do not make a lot of money. So like that still, like I looked at it, I'm like, yeah, it's not a popular system, but it is a system that is used by people who that works for, and so it just.
To me, it's like romaine lettuce. Like every year it comes out that romaine lettuce has somehow gotten diseased or something, so it's not available.
And I'm just watch the crap out of my romaine lettuce.
Fine. Who cares about romaine lettuce? Get me some spinach. Get me some color in that salad.
Get me a dark mode on that BattleNet logo.
Oh, and even worse, like it never happens with the big like round heads of lettuce. But can you imagine people being like, "Sorry, we're all out of absolute crap lettuce." I don't remember how we got here.
I can't follow up your romaine thing, man. I got nothing. I don't know how we ended up here. I'm still stuck on the fact that the new BattleNet icon looks like something CompuServe would put up.
Oh man, I had CompuServe too.
I bet you did. I had AOL. So
yeah,
like you do. Welcome. You've got BattleNet. I'm done.
Okay.
All right, moving on from the new dev.
Sleepless in Seattle remake anyway.
All right, Kyle. Last week you told me about some immature BS in was it NGS or Heroes Lounge?
Wait, what? You're talking about wait, what?
It was the people were like smack talking you behind your back in an internal newsletter.
I wouldn't go immature. There were scandals being crafted, rivalries being formed, all for fun. And the end statement was a slightly bit too salty. And we had a really good time joshing them for it.
Okay. So dance moms and Little League dads were getting their egos on. And
right. But
this was supposed to just be a segue. I wasn't trying to.
Okay. And anyway, ride your segue. I had conversations with people this week from NGS, and they're always really nice. Like the funny thing at the end of the day is competitive people, when you ask them legit questions about why they did something or why they like playing this game, they're always, maybe outside the game more so, but they're always really nice about it.
I just want to keep stoking the flame. I'll be like, yeah, that's what everyone who talks smack is like. Once you finally see them in person, they got nothing more to say. I'm just going to keep stoking the flame, Kyle.
Man. That is a fun rivalry. I'm going to keep it at that.
Okay. All right. Cool. Okay, wonderful.
Anyway, you were attempting to segue.
All right. Yeah. So tell me about what drama is happening in the CCL.
Okay. So this is a bit of a story, and just because it's currently ongoing and decisions haven't been made, I'm going to avoid all names.
Okay.
Right. So, Season 2, Heroes Hearth CCL is approaching. And in order to facilitate a draft environment where organizations select players and build teams, the previous teams have been disbanded for the most part, and are now looking to redraft and build teams again. As you can assume, a team that was functional last time wants to be functional again with the same people who gelled well and had a really good time together. So some of our more powerful players, high-end players, well-known HGC players from the past are throwing their muscle around a little bit and saying that if I get drafted by a team outside the one I want, I may refuse to play, or I might run it down, as it were. I won't make practice times, perhaps. These are all example assumptions. But they're throwing their muscle around in order to get on the exact team they want and to hang out with their friends. Which, of course, being friends with them already, having been maybe on an HGC team in the past, you're going to gel instantly. Which means no ridiculous practice hours as you try to figure out your new team. You don't have to have long conversations about who's working, who doesn't. Get that sub in here, trying to replace the right person. Take advantage of those trades that the CCL has in the draft later on as you try to build a functional team when you could just start with a functioning team, right? So players are muscling around the organizations. And many of the organizations aren't necessarily high-end players. Some of them have coaches who help inform the draft, but it seems what's happening over there is the organization knows one mega player inside the clique. And so they draft very first that mega player, the leader of the clique, and then that group of friends drafts all their friends onto the team. So it's not actually maybe as strategy oriented as we wanted. It's just friends getting together with friends, which is fine for a for-fun tournament. But the CCL, of course, has pressure upon it to be the competitive environment. So people are wondering right now, is this okay? Should Heroes Hearth put a stop to players muscling the organizations around and trying to build their friend groups again? Or is the CCL more for fun? And we just let it happen, and maybe the games won't exactly promote new talent, but they'll be competitive enough with names we know, and we'll get to see those groups battle out again. Of course, nobody wants repeats. Like, how boring is that to enter season 2, and it's just the same teams as they previously were, and the same team wins again, the whole thing. Now, we also have to look at the other side of the story, of course, which is you have a lot of people applying for those spots in the CCL. A lot of players who are really hungry for those spots, who the prize money of, maybe when it's all done per player, like $1,200 would matter a lot to them. They could then say, hey, I'm going to cut my work hours at my job in order to make all those practices that we're talking about making. So we can be a functional team. I can make this and that decision about my streaming schedule and start incorporating this and become a better Heroes of the Storm player. Or what's happening right now is the players who kind of know they're locked in are not as hungry and may not use that money to finance practice time. So you've got the top end a little bit trying to be unseated by all the players who want those spots, which is fair.
Yeah.
How someone, gets, there's an opening in a position above and you'd love to take that position. And that's perfectly human. But there are two sides to the story right now. People trying to displace those that are doing this, and the audience looking at Heroes Hearth saying, is this how you want it to run? What sort of games should we expect? And does your draft system work if players are influencing it this strongly?
It certainly seems like what's the point of the draft system is the first place my brain goes in that regard. I like my esports to be kind of a zero-sum game. I like just the best players, the best teams to win,
Sure.
Regardless of previous accolades or any sense of deserving things. So I tend to lean towards as much as diva pro player behavior just annoys the living hell out of me. It's a big reason I'm not a massive traditional sports fan. Like, I just don't. I don't know why we like a lot of these people or wear their names on our shirts. So when I see it in esports, when I see diva behavior in esports, I just kind of I zone out. I'm like, okay, cool. We probably wouldn't have been friends in school. That being said, I'm so annoyed by it. I want to go, cool, whatever. Keep hanging out. Let's see if you can stay the best. Let's see if you can put your performance where your ego is. Because the number one thing I definitely don't want to see is just like a bunch of thrown games. Because then it's just a joke at that point. Like, why am I watching this?
Absolutely. And that is what's being threatened by some of these players, perhaps. You also have maybe a lack of new talent allowed to showcase itself and take those spots over time. And, what if you are tired of Greymane Zeratul in every game? Well, we use the same players. We're going to get Greymane Zeratul games every game. So ultimately, it comes down to what Heroes Hearth is going to say about this and how they're going to reaffirm their commitment to this draft process and make sure it's legit and untampered. But of course, traditional sports is full of tampering in their drafts, and there's all sorts of crazy, wild dealings. And, it's like the stock market. Someone knew ahead of time, but, we can't really prove it, so blah, blah, blah. Like, it's gotten a little messy. And if we want to see I don't know if we want to. Let me open the thing here. If we want to see Chogals or Valeras or something crazy like that, well, we have to draft players who can play those things. And if we stick to role players, we're not going to see those kinds of things enter the game.
Yeah, once we get past just kind of the, as a fan, how do you feel kind of a thing, like it's a balancing act, right? Like, because you want names, you want recognizable names, you want star power because you want people to tune in, right? But at the same time, do you really just want to like let the participants call all the shots? I realize they should have a say, but if it's like turning into like straight up threats to undermine the spirit of competition, that's where I get irritated, and I just go, "What? All right, either do away with the ban system because maybe this calls into question, or the draft system. Maybe this calls into question the whole draft portion of it. Like maybe a real hard look at, is the draft worth it? Is there enough value in drafting teams every season? Or start banning players from being a part of CCL. Like, to me, it's like, those are the two really hard questions here. It's like, do you want to reprimand the players for throwing their weight around? Or do you want to take a really hard look at the draft system and see if it's bringing enough value to your tournament?
Which it is an exciting feature. Like, it's a very cool idea to see all these names, get to know these names. And Heroes Hearth, I got to say, has done a really good job showcasing their new talent. They put on an entire tournament this past weekend just to showcase all the available people that these organizations might pick up. And as I said, some of them have coaches which are actively scouting nonstop, working, doing their best, looking for the players that'll make a good team, regardless of previous power. And word's coming out, too, that this happened back in the HGC days. Granted, there wasn't a draft and a disband your team, please sort of moment. But players, of course, naturally would say something along the lines of, if you put so-and-so on this team, I quit. Well, you can't quit. You're our best support. Well, then you best not put that person on the team, will you? And okay, human enough.
I like your dramatic reenactment voice, by the way. I just want to...
Sure. I doubt it was actually, done in those voices, but...
No, I think that was pretty accurate, Kyle. As someone who was not there and has no knowledge, I think you nailed it.
And I'm picturing it like happening in an office at like 9 a.m., but actually, these are 20-year-olds, so we're talking like 3 p.m. online.
It happened over Battle.net's new VoIP service.
Exactly, over the Battle.net new VoIP. Exactly. Oh my God, if they do that, they're like, by the way, announcing Battle.net voice. Like, we have voice. No. Voice client.
Not like this.
Not like this. Like you've never seen it before.
You can't believe it.
So that's what's going over there. And we're all just sort of waiting to see the decision being made. And at the end of it, we're going to have Heroes content to watch. And
that irritates me. And I feel a great deal of sympathy for all of the organizers of CCL who need to navigate these waters.
Absolutely. And I feel a great sympathy for anybody who's trying to get in there, wants to be seen, wants to be showcased, wants a chance to play in such a competitive environment where you get to make those really crazy choices. Our Storm Leagues are so distant from anything they possibly play in because we don't even know what the enemy team plays. Like, the second that happens, the game gets fascinating.
Yep. Yeah, it does. It's just a bummer. Hots needs a win right now. Hots needs something exciting and just inherently positive. And it's a bummer to hear the CCL's having drama. But they've done such a good job on the production end of things. They really put on a good first showing. So like I have a lot of faith that we're gonna have a good second season.
Well, and they showed an ability to adapt throughout their season to what the audience wanted, what their sensibilities were, what sort of information and style they wanted it all to be presented in. And I expect we're going to have a similar announcement coming up as to how they're going to handle this. They're not blind to these ideas. So, hey, if you want to win, we can talk about today's strategy section, because I think that's a win.
Well, let's do it.
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? Ah, that seems generous.
Don't reveal our plans to our foes. I mean it. Not a word.
So there's been a new art of tanking by one CavalierGuest making the rounds. And
Yes.
there's a bit on non-warrior tanks.
Which we know CavalierGuest loves. So let's dig into this. Because as I mentioned near the top of the show there, ETC, some of our more, sustain and survive by hitting your buttons after an engage tanks are just kind of not working right now.
Because there's not an after the engage.
Right, exactly.
That's not happening.
So people like CavalierGuest and his work as a coach for Oxygen Esports are looking to ways to shake up the draft and pull some surprises. Of course, if you've ever been in a tankless game, just by accident or by murky, you know how much damage a tankless team can suddenly do in the starting fight. Like cutting out that survivability and replacing it with a melee assassin can feel huge until survivability talents start coming online and all sorts of other elements start working into play. And maybe that now frontline murky team starts falling apart as the game goes on. But there are always cool surprises you can pull. And CavalierGuest here has gone through and identified those heroes that can be run as tanks for us at home. And it's not who you'd expect.
I mean, some of these maybe, but it starts, since it's in alphabetical order, it starts off with Alarak, which just makes me go, I'm sorry, what?
Well, here's a little thing I think you need to understand about tanking and CavalierGuest too. Once the engage is done, you might be able to die. That's a little trolly, but it's true. Like once the tank goes in and makes an engage that causes the delete, any damage that goes into the tank at that point when they're on cooldown is basically a big shield for the rest of your team. And if they die, well, it's not like they were gonna go soak or do anything truly efficient while the enemy team was dead anyway. So why not replace that useless ball of health in the front with something that would do a WQ really fast and delete somebody? Bam. And now, after that engage with Alarak, you're not sitting there with a Diablo on cooldown with his baby auto attacks. You've still got an Alarak kicking.
But they can still move.
What, the tank?
No, whoever you just engaged on, they can still walk around. Like,
oh yeah, no, it's not as beautiful and it's not as refined or to our Storm League sensibilities as a ETC power slide face melt that makes you go, ooh, the stun guy who got isolated and pushed towards me. Let's attack that. But when you've got comms and you're hanging out with all your buddies you've practiced with for quite a while, you just focus fire on the correct thing anyway. And so tanks in Storm League, like ETC, are able to use Guitar Solo to recover random Jaina Bolt and random auto attack from Lunara over time because they didn't receive all the enemy attacks at the same time and just explode.
gotcha.
Which is why they need all that health. And if you think of it that way, you could even go further and say, we needed all that health on our warrior in that situation because they absorbed not only the Frostbolt and the Blizzard and the Cone of Cold and the spores and the auto attacks and then the Cassia Fend. Like, if you died at just the Jaina part, there's all these other cooldowns you didn't take with you, and now you're not that good of a tank, are you? But that would happen anyway in a coordinated environment. So why not try to run something that's not based on survivability, like your Alarak here?
I honestly think this might be one of the hardest sells, and it just happens to be first by virtue of alphabetical nature.
Sure, I think there's even more things that bring a complete lack of CC, but let's go down the list here.
Well, I mean, speaking of which, is Artanis. Like, you got
There
the
we go.
swap, but no way to hold on, which is noted in Cavalier's rundown. But it's, yeah. Both the A's it's just out the gate by virtue of alphabetical listing. It's like Alarak and Artanis. I don't know about these two.
Well, Artanis would work best here in a control point fight where the enemy wants to be on top of Artanis in the first place. You're running double support with this, so that double support is usually making up for that lack of CC that Artanis would have in the first place. So sitting there twin blading away, resetting his shields, double support healing him. But of course, one of these might be Uther or Lili. So, he's not being healed to the moon and back. He survives. They can't get him off the point. The Zerg wave gets taken, and bam, bam, down the lane, this team wins, where otherwise ETC would have failed.
The classic double support Artanis.
Yes, of course. These are all classic ideas. That's what's so cool about this. Like, these are ideas that are brand new and crafted and cooked up, slightly due to my own failings on his team, but also due to the hard work he's put on in his CCL team.
Gotcha. Okay.
Sometimes I feel like I'm living in the CavalierGuest test kitchen, but occasionally it's delicious.
Yeah, I mean, this should probably be under the umbrella of you're on comms with the team who are on board for some of these compositions.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I feel like if I went into Storm League right now and I was like, I'm on Artanis, I need 2 support, everyone would just be like, okay, sounds good, dude.
Are you serious? There's tons of cute things like this that would never organically happen in a solo queue. I heard this week about Nano Boost Artanis on Battlefield of Eternity because it resets his twin blades for amateur opponent.
That actually sounds kind of dope.
Yeah, it sounds really, really fun. But can you imagine Ana putting all her efforts into Artanis? A bit of a tough sell.
It is. But if you're already on board for it, just like you might be on board for attempting to replace your front line with Cassia.
She has armor.
She does.
She has Valkyrie, which is a big engage. And
it is a big engage.
With the proper chokes, could cause a delete, which that Diablo would have done in the first place. And now you got Cassia instead of Diablo.
This is where I started to get on board with this list. I was like, okay, all right, Valkyrie makes sense. Thought Artanis was a bit of a stretch. Alarak was really like, I get it. I get that he's got the engage, but it's Alarak. I have my own biases against Alarak. They're documented. Listen to past episodes. I get the Cassia. I get it. Armor, Valkyrie. I mean, what more do you want? It's a tank. It has armor. It has engage. It's a tank.
Again, a lot of these are double support tanks in that the double support is bringing all that CC that Cassia is missing on the in-between.
Yep. Uther's also on the list, so some of these are support in and of themselves. Chen is up next with Beryl being the engage.
Yeah, this is where I start to. This is one where I'm like, getting all the way to 10 before we feel like our tank can engage.
That's the same for Cassia. Why is Chen more of a hard sell than Cassia? Because Cassia Valkyrie is a 10 as well.
Well, Cassia works into that sort of scenario where the enemy team hasn't picked up their survivability talents yet. So you've got that damage throughput that helps you win the early game to 10. All the way to 10 with Chen. Yes, his solo lane damage is pretty good, but I don't see him equaling accidental kills in that way.
That's fair. I mean, Johanna adjacent with the wave clear, though. I mean, we were talking about earlier, if the tank survives, what are they going to do? Go clear lanes? Johanna will, but most of the tanks won't. But Chen will.
He's all right at it.
Yeah. Deathwing is up next. Right off, Cavalier points out the lack of engage, which is where my brain went. But he's not wrong. There's a serious amount of zone control going on with a Deathwing. Which, by the way, I would love to live in this reality where Deathwing is the front line.
It's pretty fun. I've gotten to do it once or twice.
Yeah, I wish it was the norm though, right? And because so much of what we're talking about here are really unique scenarios and really unique drafts.
I think that Deathwing main tank to punish enemy CC requires the rest of the team to play out of range of enemy CC. And that's where we fall apart in Storm League. Because last pick tank, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to pick? Oh, Deathwing, how cool. They've got ETC, they've got Uther, they've got down the road, just all the stuns. And what happens? Deathwing engages, the ETC walks around Deathwing and kills your Jaina, kills your brother down the road. They just use their CCs on things that aren't Jaina. And the whole team would have to control itself enough to never be in range of those CCs and be aware of what the exact range on a Zul bone prison is.
Okay. All right. I'm following you there. Dahaka made the list as well with what's being referred to as a supplementary engage. Or, well, should have a supplementary engage. Sorry. In addition to Dahaka's own engage.
Right. His drag is very unreliable because of the way it winds up and fires. If somebody can get that first stun like Uther, and then Dahaka can then take advantage of that and follow up, that is a very, very long stun and a very powerful reposition. Plus, if any damage goes into Dahaka, well, he's got things like adaptation to just recover from it, dig underground during the part that would kill him, pop up with full health. So now we never lost that Diablo after engage. We've still got a Dahaka as a front line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like the focus on rotation here. That's interesting. Hogger, I mean, yeah, I guess starts with Hortipult. I agree. Hogger has Hortipult.
It's
that
a big
is
engage. Yeah, it's long range. It is very unreliable outside of like the top end players, which I certainly am not. I probably use it more as a disengage with a heal on the back end, just because I hog wild in and try to get my rage up as fast as possible. But hey, you've got people setting you up to get these good stuns that lead to a lot of damage, particularly into the enemy front line. You're gonna have a pretty decent time.
Even mentions the potential of going Shockwave with a Medivh, which
yeah, that's the setup you might need for a big stun. And Shockwave isn't as bad as our brains are still saying in the background. It's perfectly fine and supplements a team lacking that little bit of interrupt.
I'm interested in this one. I like this one. I like Hogger. Illidan. Okay. All right. I'm out, Kyle.
I think this is more of a one that is here because it could someday happen. But it is not the time right now.
Makes sense.
And basically, as he highlights here, your first thought is, okay, engage. So Illidan's going to go hunt for a stun, so we can all know what we're attacking. The problem is, in Illidan's current design, he doesn't survive well enough after that engage to actually have an impact. So this is a metamorphosis Illidan. Someone who's going to engage, then switch out of potential damage and AoEs into having more health and more sustain, and then can chase and break apart the enemy team. So this would be a bait team, which is really, really hard to do, of course, because you're telling everybody to be real patient. Illidan's going to go in, last a while, and then once we sort of have them maybe chasing our Lily, of all things, we can pursue, and split off and slice a piece, just a little piece that we're going to get.
Okay. All right. I think it has enough caveats. This is a big eyebrow raise from me. Imperious, yeah, okay, totally. Makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
Probably this and Uther, which we'll get to much later. Like, these are some classic mentions here.
Yeah, and Imperious is already on a lot of people's salt wall right now. He does a very long stun of 1 second and then follows up with absurd damage just from himself. So absolutely delete potential, survivability, armaments following up. Yeah.
His engage, man, that is among the most binary salt walls in the game, right? Because it feels like he does nothing when it misses, and it feels like the most impactful ability in the game when it lands.
It's one of those I don't get to play today kind of moments.
Yeah. Kerrigan, this is an interesting one because, yeah, I wouldn't say she's not able to kick off a fight.
She has some interesting drafting places. It's, we run her on Infernal Shrines, but not in the way you would necessarily think. I do Diva there, and I'm on the objective with my splashy machine guns, cleaning that up really, really well. I don't need Kerrigan in the area. Kerrigan actually goes and double soaks so she can get her quest done killing minions, and then shows up later at a team fight past 10 usually with Ultralisk and a lot more damage behind her than she would otherwise have if she had been on the objective rather than double soaking.
It's another patient strategy, but Only to a certain point, though, right? Because once you're past that 10 point, then you don't need to be as patient.
Right. So this is more like Alarak. And in fact, Alarak and Kerrigan have been compared a lot in the past.
We should start calling these investment comps.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to think of it. You're going to see your return later on. But for now, don't be concerned that the Garden Terrors are marching in all your lanes. That's fine and expected. We expect it to grow with time. So Kerrigan, a lot like Alarak here, you would wait in a bush in a rather dangerous sort of situation because you don't have the escape of some other tanks, and then quickly delete somebody, maybe even get a multi-stun that is far beyond the size and damage of a lot of other normal warrior tanks and win the team fight.
Here's one for you. How would you ever consider tanking on Leoric?
Oh yeah, absolutely into Johanna, because I think that the Entomb is not countered by her Iron Skin. Therefore, you kill Johanna when otherwise you wouldn't have, and everyone focus fires down Johanna. The enemy team now has no Johanna, which we all know whenever anyone early picks Johanna, you're going to take Vala and Li Ming behind of it because, of course, Johanna's never going to die. Therefore, Vala, will never possibly die in my Creed of the Hunter auto attack build. I hate that thing, by the way.
The auto attack build?
Oh, man. Oh, man. You're just wishing for Dreamland, my book.
Okay, so you hate it in that you don't want to see a Vala on your team doing it.
Not particularly. It's kind of like, it's buying lottery tickets. I'm holding out, I just keep doing it week and week. It's going to win someday. This machine's hot right now.
That's how I'm feeling about just Illidan as a whole. I saw a lot of Illidans this week, and all I could think about was last week when you and I were in a game with an Illidan, and it went really well, and you're like, well, sometimes you hit 1 in 11.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes,
Those words have just echoed in my mind when I see an Illidan this week, because I haven't been on a team with an Illidan that has won.
Sometimes it pays out. You kind of forget about all those losses along the way that it took you to get that $5 out of the machine. And, well,
the high is so high that you forget about the 10 lows that led to this.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does feel good to win on Illidan. I'm not gonna deny that.
But of course, let's go back to one of my original points here and caveats for CavalierGuest in that the tank is going to die horribly, but it matters less on Leoric. So if you're engaging properly, you get that delete done before Leoric falls. Leoric falls, he's not useful anyway, and he'll be back sooner anyway. Much like Johanna, you can absolutely note that he could go soak as well if the team fight goes in this mode. But usually Leoric would not be double soaking or even taking the solo lane, of course, if he is main tank.
Medivh and Malthael are also on this list, and those are as skeptical as Illidan for me.
Medivh just takes too darn much skill. And like all of our ice block talons, Vault that allows Medivh to jump into the air and dodge a moment of damage is something you could debate until the end of time. I dodged a Pyroblast, but technically I was getting a shield from Brightwing, and then I couldn't jump when Imperious engaged later on. Which was the right choice? What should I have done in this situation? Medivh's just going to have a huge skill cap, but absolutely can very easily completely impact a team fight, engage at a decent distance, and deal a lot of damage. Malthael, you might delete that enemy tank. We're not in a Malthael meta right now. Think of this like Illidan. We're just simply not in a time period where this is really going to happen right now.
Yeah, I think you run into a similar problem with some of these heroes where they die like the tank afterwards. Like a traditional tank would have.
Right, and they're just too counterable in our current sphere of meta.
Medivh is really interesting on the list.
Well, he brings quite a few things that might enable your team to have the same tools as a tank. So he's a bird, he's flying around, he's scouting. Guess what tanks do in coordinated play? Not be seen in lanes, not touch that merc camp. They're walking in bushes, looking around, trying to keep an eye on the enemy team, and then disengaging, getting out of there.
Yeah, I mean, scouting is pretty uniquely the purview of tanks, right? Well, here's
a bird.
A really specific checkbox ticked by Medivh.
And then, of course, you have portals to get people in and out. You have Force of Will to counter the enemy burst, maybe even the burst on yourself. You naturally would not be playing this frontline. Everyone behind Medivh, let's go. Straight line walk.
Yeah. That one's interesting. Then there's Nazebo, which Zul's on this list, right? Yeah. Yeah. I've actually ended up in a quick match this week where we got Nazebo, the other team got like Zul. And I lumped them together because they used to both be specialists and they're both wave clearers. I was like, one of these teams has a front line, the other one does not. And it's the team with the Nazebo. But Nazebo was on this list.
Yeah, I have no idea how that game was made for you with no bruiser for your team. But hey, Nazebo should, in a quick match environment, note, just like Asmodan should, note that I'm the dude with the most health. I should probably get in front of Vala here. But rarely doesn't happen because, you're just spamming games. And why would you play this game any different than the last game? Let's go farm some forts. So Nazebo might have a place versus that tank Deathwing. Very much in that same sort of area Leoric's in. Like, you create terrain, therefore trapping the enemy Johanna, who can't get out of it with her escape ability, forcing the Johanna to go Falling Sword, which means she has a bad heroic in the first place. And now the enemy team sucks because they have no good heroics. And you win, right? But a bit of a uphill battle for Nazebo here.
Yeah. And there's Ragnaros,
who I've never heard in this regard. This is an entirely new one to me.
Yeah.
Molten Core, he brings up as a ability to call off team fights, dictate team fights.
Yeah, a bait is brought up again, so probably pretty high on the burden of execution here. But you could bait with Molten Core.
Right, you're gonna be like, oh no, you're pushing us back. Oh, it's too much. Don't get up on my buildings. By the way, don't get stunned, Ragnaros, the front line for this team before you get into that Molten Core. They're under our building. We tricked them.
Did you just
swings, big damage?
Did you just call an ambulance, but not for me, with Ragnaros's Molten Core ability? Is that what you just described? Okay, all right. Just want to make sure I'm on the same page. Okay, I can get that. I can get that. Then I'm kind of starting to understand these caveats better. Like, well, it's bait comp, and bait comp is difficult, but it fits in there. He's not wrong. Rexar. Yeah, okay, makes sense. You have a W on Misha. CavalierGuest compares it, I think, rightly so, to ETC's Q. But then goes on to sing the praises of Boars on Rexar's heroic.
At level 20. So a little bit you can read into what we're doing here in that we may not be powerful until that point, but the chance that we're so powerful at that point with a team that also has matching power spikes, has the ability to now turn that fight around, take it to the core. You have a leashed ETC running around, and any sort of stun provided by your team is going to lead to a very, very long CC chain with Rexar running in front. And yeah, I've seen this played into things like Garrosh. Like, you just admit that they are so focus fired and so insanely accurate that you're going to main tank Rexar because here's a free Misha. Just get that on cooldown for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't want to wait till 20, you could go Sonya and just wait till 10 and get Leap, according to CavalierGuest.
Right. So Sonya, with a lot of survivability, might be able to tank for the front line, particularly if they're all clumped up. You might be able to do a whirlwind build. Of course, in our current phase, this is mainly going to be a slam build, hitting the enemy front line and bouncing that through and onto the back line. So massive damage, more damage than they can expect. And Leap is a way to get that quick delete. Now you have map control and you've got a Sonya along with no tank. Heck yeah, you got map control.
Yeah, and you can just take the one talent for extra whirlwind survivability and still go a slam build because there's nothing competing at that level. So, yeah, that makes sense.
And when one pick with level 20 death timers matters more, we can do, survivability talents at 20 and 16. Granted, that's one of your main giant killer sort of areas, but there's an opportunity here that this could be a real thing if her damage stays as high as it is.
Yeah. Yeah. That's because we needed more reasons to slam Sonya games.
Slam. Nice.
Yeah, you see what I did there. Okay, sell me on Stukov.
Okay. I have only ever seen this fail, but I understand the principle. So Stukov has a decent amount of health, and you may be aware he has a really nice auto attack. So what Stukov does is you do, at level 1, reactive ballistospores. Taking damage below 50% health on Stukov instantly spreads a weighted pustule to all nearby enemy heroes and resets the cooldown of Bio Kill Switch. So you have a heal active on yourself, and then it bounces around to your team. You're trying to get some slows and whatnot with your weighted pustule and pop those so your team can engage. Stukov's walking around the front line looking for that slow. The enemy team descends upon him. And this is a tank Stukov, so there's a secondary support. They keep him alive while he hits that 50% mark, and everybody gets hit with a weighted pustule. So now they are slowed up to 50% at the end of 3 seconds. Your bio kill switch, your ability to activate your slow and your heal, resets. So you throw under yourself a lurking arm, which starts maybe spreading, whatever talents you want to do. I usually see spreading with this, but you go into the lurking arm while everybody's slowed. So now you've got 50% slows, lots of damage on everybody. Everybody's silenced. And maybe you're such a badass that at 13, you hit that detonate while they're in the slow and they get rooted for 2 seconds. Rooted, massive damage, everyone's healed, silenced. And this can be an anti-Garrosh comp if the support is like really, really following you and ready for that toss. Stukov goes, look at me, Garrosh, gets thrown in the back lane, and then you basically perform a damaging mosh pit.
Okay. So it's similar caveats of like very specific times when you would really, really want this. It's going to definitely take some practice.
Right. And the weird thing about it too is Stukov is often used as the second support that has all the healing in the first place, and Uther's the one out in the front. In our sort of logic minds, we take the support that deals very little healing, like Tyrande, and turn them into assassins. Rarely do we take the big healing support and say, now you're frontline, sir. And he goes, okay, how is Stukov going to survive with Lily heals when he gets thrown? I would much rather have main tank Lily, see Lily get thrown, and Stukov heal her instead. Because, of course, on the other side of this, Stukov receives all those stuns that stop him from casting in the first place. It's very, very much up to that cleansing second support to make this whole thing work. So huge burden of execution on your secondary support to pull off tank Stukov.
I think we would traditionally call this cute.
It's a little cute.
It's a little cute.
But it's fun.
Yeah. Butcher. Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised I haven't seen this more often. I mean, it's very straightforward engage.
Yeah, you run at them, you hit, you do a big silence, you kill the target, now you're Butcher, now you have meat,
You also healed off of them while you were engaging if you used your brand correctly. Yeah, okay. Butcher makes sense. Thrall also right there with him. Thrall also makes sense.
Right, Thrall is a lot easier in my mind. Butcher, I actually had one of these comps come up this week, and it failed horribly because the Butcher never got any meat, which means he wasn't dealing the damage enough that was equaling the health back, and just the whole thing fell apart because Butcher couldn't stop engaging. So as CavalierGuest puts in his guide here, point and click engage, don't die. You have to really understand the scenario you're getting into.
Don't
Thrall
die
has a lot of self-healing though.
Yeah. Don't die.
And
very
a really good
important
root and giant killers, and Thrall is way more dynamic in the way that he would be able to peel and offer DPS to zone an enemy tank engaging your team.
Uther, I feel like needs no introduction on how to Uther tank.
Yeah.
Point and click stun. Just a better Butcher tank, I guess, really.
You have the stuns, you have poke to get somebody like a Genji who's running away with your Holy Shock. You've got an amazing Divine Shield or Divine Storm based on the comp. And much like our Leoric, after engagement and your cooldowns are gone, just die so that you can heal the team decently while they go win. And now they're healed up for while the enemy team's dead, when otherwise they might not be. Uther tank. It's a real thing.
Zool, same. Now we're in the land of frontline, like off-brand frontlines we're used to playing with, even in pickup games.
Yeah, and one that certainly comes up a lot in quick match. You probably had a Zool tank today if you played. He just gets kited easily. So anything you can do to help speed along that Zool or make his engages more reliable are what you're going to want for that draft.
Yeah. All right, sell me on your rel.
Oh, it's basically Bruiser Urel. You're going to do the exact same thing you normally do. It's just the enemy team is more likely to target Urel first. So you're going to have a long window between your self-heal, your Ardent Defender. But hey, what do Urels do? They charge with their little wings. They jump. And then they try to bat somebody into your team and get a kill real quick.
I will say I have a similar label for Urel as I do for Johanna, which is the doesn't die label.
Yeah. The shameful label, too. Like, if Johanna dies in, like, the opening team fight, we're all sitting around being like, what the hell is happening?
What was that?
How did that? And you're watching the solo lane, or you're doing your own 4-stack thing, and Urel dies top Dragonshire. Even if like 4 people visit her, we're all like, "What the hell was that? What? There's a goat. Why is there a little goat icon on the side with an arrow pointing at it that said they got killed?"
It's rare for sure. Zarya. Okay. All right. And I mean, I was going to say this, I feel like this is very terrain based and yeah, in Cavalier's notes, it's all about the choke.
Right. You would have superior choke fight, not only because you're heroics, also because you're huge, powerful auto attack. And Zarya running as a solo frontliner, maybe there's a double soaker bruiser or something, but let's imagine, with a 4-stack, everyone else is ranged and squishy. There's Hanzos and stuff. They would have no recourse but to hit Zarya. And Zarya, with all her massive skills, would time her shield perfectly, thereby making it bad. She deals massive damage now with her auto attack and her little boopy blips. It's going to be great.
What about when you're not in a choke?
Well, then it's kind of the Mei problem, where everyone's like, Mei frontline, I'll walk by that. And they just go, yep. Everyone just kind of makes this large berth around Mei and just gets in the back line anyway.
Yep. And then ending on a pretty interesting one, Zeratul on Void Prison. Comparing Zeratul to Johanna because of the being able to just clear waves, waiting until you have a heroic, because Johanna doesn't really have an engage until heroic comes online either. I'm surprised how much I followed this logic.
Yeah, it's not an impossible thought. It's so hard to remove ourselves from our Storm League experience, though, where, like, if Johanna's not there right in front of the Hanzo and the Vala, they're all going to die all the time because Johanna needs to check the bushes and all this sort of stuff for the 4-man that's moving around. Like, no. In coordinated play, just go hide behind a wall. Go do the boring thing. Johanna can go so because she won't die doing it. Same with Zeratul. And then when she's got her actual engage with Blessed Shield, then Johanna joins up. But in our Storm League games, of course, we would say, well, where's the pressure? Like, there's no influence without Johanna there to even do a mini stun.
Yeah. But again, I mean, this entire conversation we've been having has really been under the umbrella of you're talking to your team and everyone's on the same page.
Exactly.
Which is a fun umbrella to live under for these types of discussions.
And these are all, of course, done in the draft. So we need to put that on top of it there. Like, if you void prison a whole enemy team that saw the Zeratul main tank coming, like, of course, there's going to be cleanses and maybe even Tyraels and all sorts of crazy crud. But you get through a draft, last pick is up, they're not sporting any tank right now. Your brain isn't going to use your last 2 picks to say, oh, how are we going to deal with Zeratul?
I mean, I think if I saw that across the draft for me, I would just go, where's their tank? And then be surprised when this worked out. But
right, we'd also be equally surprised that the other 4 people didn't constantly engage and throw the game.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep this hyperlinked for when I find myself in a very, very weird draft at some point. I'll be like, oh God, we have no tank. What do we have? Well, we've got a Zeratul. Well, I mean, we've got a Medivh, and try and last minute get everyone on the same page. Be like, no, we're good, people. This is what we're gonna do.
Well, and that's where this comes from, a place of love and a place of respect for the game, and is so interesting to me. Like, we in our home games will sit there and be like, oh my God, we have no lane clear. They banned Johanna. Oh, we're so screwed. All right, no problem. No problem, guys. We've got one pick left. We have to have a tank. I'm going to ETC, Echo Pedal, and Stage Dive. And you're in for just a nightmare of a game while you try to climb for 7 as you're completely pushed out. Nobody's going to be all that happy with your heroic pickup because they're going to have no idea when you're coming in and what your plan is with this particular ability. And you're just going to lose horribly. So why confine ourselves to the tanks when you could just grab somebody that would do that better, like Zool, and run them as a tank?
Yeah. There's some cool stuff in here. This is a cool guide. And by the way, we only focused on the non-warrior tanks. There's a lot more to this guide, and if you haven't seen it, we'll have a link in the show notes. But it's on the Heroes of the Storm Reddit right now, called CavalierGuest Art of the Tank 2.0. It's very easy to find. Got a ton of upvotes. Go check it out. Read it in full. Especially, we talked about maybe being a returning player or a first-time player a few weeks ago. We had an email coming in and be like, hey, I don't understand these terms. This guide is exhaustive in its glossary of terms. If you are like, what's an engage? What's a peel? What's a ward? All of that is covered in this to great detail. So great work, CavalierGuest. And everyone should go check that out. You should also write in to itncast@gmail.com because that's where we get our emails.
Darkness stopped calling.
Does anyone else hear that buzzing?
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Shine Emperor starts us off today and says, question, 100% of my games have been quick match. Are quick match players worse than league players? And I'm assuming they mean Storm League, because I don't know why you would compare quick match to League of Legends players. What do the logs and HOTS logs have to say about that? I'm curious what the big data says. Big data for the win. There's not a clean way to compare the two. Because if you look at stats for quick match, you're looking at stats for quick match. And if you look for stats for Storm League, you're looking at stats for Storm League. So you'd have to find a metric that you're comparing that you can then draw a meaningful conclusion from that says players in one mode are better than players in another. But there's also other factors you need to keep in mind. So like, say we arbitrarily, Kyle, for point of my making my point here, let's go with average game time. Let's say we compared average game time. And say it came back. I'm not saying this is the case because I don't have a quick way of querying this. But let's say it came back and it was like, quick match games are, on average, 3 minutes shorter than Storm League games. That must mean quick match players are more decisive, more efficient, and get the job done quicker. They're the better players. Well, or everyone, does it mean that quick match is more prone to bonkers drafts and complete blowout games? It could mean that. So those are the types of things you need to keep in mind when you're doing apples to apples comparisons of specific metrics from one mode of Heroes of the Storm to the other, and you go ahead and apply this to any other game you're interested in comparing metrics on. What is interesting though are like your passion picks, right? Like I think, Kyle, we were talking earlier. What was it? Li Ming, was that your example? Li Ming has a higher average win rate in quick match than in Storm League.
Correct.
Yeah. See, that's where, again, it's like, I don't know that it is that Li Ming players in quick match are better than Li Ming players in Storm League. I think it's that Li Ming probably excels more in wackier compositions or non-traditional compositions. Or that the people that are playing Li Ming in quick match, that's just who they want to play. That's one of their favorite heroes. That's who they're good with. And there's maybe not as much room for Li Ming in the draft in Storm League.
Well, I would also say that the Li Ming who quick matches nonstop is just a better Li Ming because they can aim their skill shots. Because they're used to fighting Genjis and Novas and all this crazy, small, buzzy stuff that goes on in there. Whereas your Li Ming in Storm League has a much higher rate of yelling at the tank for not doing good CC so their shots hit.
Which, by the way, we're only roughly a 1% difference between them in win rate. Between the two leagues.
Not insane. But there's 20,000 game difference between the two. There are 69,000 games of quick match played over the last 2 patches compared to 45,000. And we could read into that and say, okay, that supports our claim that quick match Li-Mings are better than draft Li-Mings. But I also think when you get into draft, you just have a lot of people who prefer the structure, not necessarily the hero they end up on. So in that way, quick match players will always win the 1v1. They're just so experienced at trading. What's the word? Limit testing. That's the word.
There it is. There's also the interesting thing, too, that Li-Ming also has 45,000 games banned over the course of the past 2 patches. So there's almost an equal number of games logged on HOTS logs where there wasn't even a chance for a Li-Ming to play in the first place. Doesn't mean that a Li-Ming would have been picked in all of those games, but it's another metric to note.
And we also have league issues like Gazlo and Kael'thas are the top bans by a huge margin. And I haven't banned a Gazlo in what feels like a year.
The same with Kael'thas. Hogger, yeah. Still see Diablo bans, which I get it. I've come full circle. I am respecting the Diablo again.
I don't think it's about Diablo respect. I think it's that there's a high chance that an assassin player knows how to play Diablo. And that a tank player frustrated with their team is more likely to pick Diablo. Speaking from experience a little bit, but he's basically the assassin of tanks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Boy, it just so happened you mentioned Li-Ming as an example when we were kind of doing our pre-talk. That puts her 45,000 games banned. That puts her, let's see this, 7th place overall in bans. That seems high. Why are so many people banning Li-Ming?
Well, reset potential, right? Like it's that.
Yeah.
It's what we talked about earlier with you don't really notice the imperious cues that miss, but you certainly notice when an entire team fight was thrown in favor of the Li-Ming's team by a bunch of resets.
That's fair. That is fair.
So your brain immediately glabs onto, oh, it must have been Li-Ming was the issue. Ban Li-Ming, and I bet you too, there's a lot of Li-Ming mains around, and people queue up. They've seen the same Li-Ming player that just did that thing, so the bans continue.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. But yeah, I think it's hard to compare the two. I mean, I would say on average, like quick match players are a little more focused on micro, and Storm League players are a little more focused on macro. Because I think just inherently, if you are interested in playing Storm League, you're interested in having a slightly wider game knowledge because you must be somewhat interested in draft. I'm sure there are exceptions to the rules, those who would just like a more traditional composition in more of their games as well.
Or you're just some dirty Tychus player like I am from time to time, and you really, really like the sound of your own dings. And you wouldn't possibly get that many dings in quick match. So you make sure you have a front line and a support so you can stand in the exact spot you want to and go ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. But the point is, I'd like to know what you play, Shine Emperor, because I have a bet. If for some reason, I almost feel like the hidden text in your question is like, do you think I would suck if I went into Storm League? I bet not if you were playing the heroes you play in quick match.
Yeah, that's kind of the story of it.
Yeah. Was it a year ago when I was going on about how I had a weird amount of Novas in my Storm League drafts recently, but they were all really good, and I was kind of like gaining respect for Nova, which used to be a tilting thing to see in draft for me. And I don't know what was going on, but it sure felt like all the quick match Novas just felt like getting in on some draft games.
Well, and that's a bizarre, Nova is such a bizarre story because there you're getting into what's fun and what feels right is wrong. Like Orbital Strike is an amazing clearing and farm tool. What? You're gonna launch a space laser, which should be a nuke, but I guess they were saving room for Warhead Junction. I'm not sure what happened there. No idea why it's a laser. They probably tried the nuke thing. Anyway, that is an amazing global soak ability. And that's how Novas use it with 2 charges at level 20 and win games.
Yeah. Scababoobs writes in, I believe this came from the patron Discord. Question for the show: with the recent apparent focus on making 20 upgrades for alts, Phoenix Laser, upcoming Anduin Light Bomb, what level 20 upgrades would you love to see?
I've got one for you.
Okay.
I fought this amazing Deathwing yesterday. Just amazing. So sticky. And you know Deathwing, he's not sticky. It just meant he was positioning amazingly and moving right and creating body blocks.
I thought it meant
So
that
impressed by this guy.
he didn't shower recently and ate pancakes.
It could be. And the metal would get a little weird.
I've been talking to my friends a lot who have kids recently, if you couldn't tell.
Oh, I'm not on to... Well, yeah, they're sticky. They're sticky. I don't think he's had pancakes. I'll have to try that. Anyway, this Deathwing player in the next game was required to tank, and they went Arthas. And my first thought was, I bet they're an amazing Arthas. Because they're so good at being sticky without a hero that actually has any mobility. And they were a pretty good Arthas. But it made me think about that Deathwing and his ability to pick himself up and fly across the map. And I would like a level 20 Arthas Sindragosa talent where Arthas rides Sindragosa.
Oh, my word.
So
yep. Okay, I'm here for it.
Off in the lane, I could send my Arthas flying into the enemy team.
That would be sick. I'd be very into that. Okay, yeah. Yeah. I always kind of wanted like an Instanitis from Zarya, just like a point and click, and you just immediately go into the Nitis and pop out wherever you clicked.
It's like pre-pathed.
Like you would just Nitis would come up, eat you, and then just pop after a noteworthy delay would pop up where you wanted to go.
Oh, you could ride it to a new Nidus location.
Yeah, it worked like a Falstad fly. Think of it like that, but underground.
That's an interesting thought. You know, there are things like that that are purposely clunky. We talked about several of them today. Like Hogger right now, I'm using on the prow at level 1 a lot to maintain my rage as I move about. But it dismounts you. So I have to do this whole thing where I'm like, just kidding. Okay, on the prow so I can carry this rage to the objective from this lane I was doing. Now mount up. Ah, geez, and if I could just hit that button after mounting, it'd be so much easier. What if instead of fixing my quality of life thing, you made it a balance thing? You put that on a level 20. You give me anger management, and now my on the prow doesn't dismount me when I use it. So you're asking for a removal of clunk, but it's in the level 20 talent. Because naturally, we've all been there. We've all been Cigar, got inside Nidus and go, where am I going? Oh, crud. I have no Nidus.
Exactly.
And you get out, and then you walk where you're going, you put down the Nidus, and now, you're 15 seconds later.
Just let me go and give me a big chunk of health and mana back to offset the healing I'm losing from just chilling in the Nidus.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's a double click. Yeah, I click it once and I go in the Nidus. I can sit there healing up for as long as I want. Then I click again and I just get out where I please. That would be interesting. I'd be into that. I'm surprised I don't have something in my head for Rexxar. Rexxar has probably two of the most understated, let's call them, heroics in the game. They're just not very exciting.
Rexxar, I would love it if, and I know this is graphical clutter, but hey, we got plenty of heroes making loud noises and graphics flying everywhere.
We literally added the Tasmanian Devil to the game recently.
Yeah, I would really like it if at level 20, the board just graphically held the target. Like kind of was sitting there like with its little maw going, and like just grabbing. Just because there's so many fights where Rexxar shows up from the side, boars go flying, the enemy team goes running into the shadows, into bushes, all directions. And then when I find them rooted or something, my brain's like, how did this happen? What's going on over here?
The boars are so tiny. They're so subtle.
Yeah.
I mean, if in a perfect world, I would have just designed it so that the level 20 boars had an upgraded graphic where they had little bear traps on their back.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, that's what I would have done. But I don't know. Frankly, this question more makes me surprised that I don't have something that immediately pops to mind at level 20 for Rexxar.
Well, how about this? I got an easy one for you. Give him the Alarak Junkrat. Oh my goodness, those are hard to say back to back.
Alarak Junkrat?
Yes. Give him the treatment where at 20, Rexxar can take Bestial Wrath.
Oh, yes.
So you can get both. You can get the one you didn't get earlier.
I am into that. I like that a lot. Yes, please.
And how great would that be for the laning phase? Like sometimes you're up there and it's taking forever and you should do boars because someday you might show up to a team fight that matters. But for now, you're fighting Lost Vikings in lane and you're going to be here all day.
But then level 20 hits and you just really need to close out these damn team fights.
Exactly. Now everyone's stacked up, now it's time for you to have something big and impactful. Of course, big and impactful might also be a bunch of boars rooting people, but goes the territory of the choices.
Yeah, exactly. It's mildly bonkers, but I wouldn't mind seeing like a secondary silence out of Sylvanas' Black Arrow at 20. I don't know exactly how we would do that. If it would be like additional spread a la Gazlo's bomb talent at 20. Because what does the current 20 do? Enemies in the center explosion take 50% more damage and are silenced for twice as long. I mean, that is nice. But like, what if it did a little, like, 2 more mini arrows fired left and right after it exploded and did smaller explosions?
You want to go from an explosive arrow to basically one of those Nerf footballs that scream through the air.
Ooh, that'd be sick. Or what if I could activate a mini silence along its travel path?
Oh, that't be cool. Yeah,
Although I guess it already has an activate, right? Because you can pop it early. So that'd be you'd have to assign it a separate button. That's a usability nightmare.
Yeah, there's like a situation there where you could have kind of a as many times as you can hit it as it flies sort of button. At that point, you might as well have sort of a dragon arrow of silence across the ground as its full duration fly.
Yeah.
I think probably the easiest thing to do there would be give it the Ring of Frost level 20 where it explodes and then 2 seconds later it explodes a second time in that place.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I've done some pretty nutty ones so far. Here's what I think is mild. Okay. Not the wall itself. All right. You take skeletal mages on good old Zool. All right. Level 20. What are you doing with that? What are you doing? You're spawning another skeletal warrior when spectral scythe, when a fifth spectral scythe hits an enemy hero, right? Could that be a frost mage? What does that got to be or it is a frost mage? Sorry, what I meant was, can the frost mage run around like it's a skeletal warrior instead of being sedentary?
I see what you mean.
I don't need the whole wall to run around. I don't need that much going on. But can the spawns off of the spectral scythe, can those be special frost mages that just stay stuck to you?
You know what? If Junkrat's traps can chatter around, I would take frost mages at that speed. That seems fair.
Oh, okay. So you're saying like just give it to the whole wall of frost mages?
No, maybe not the whole wall business because that's part of the engage. But the talent you're talking about, where you now have a chance on what?
Although now, Kyle, hold on, go back. What if there was a delay on them moving, a la zombie wall?
Okay, they uproot and then they go.
It starts in a line, so you get your engage, and then pure chaos.
That could be neat. Either way, I think a Junkrat-like trap that has a leash range, so you deal with it, it chases you slowly, and if you break the range, it stops, would now still create that sort of zoning that you're trying to do with the ability without the random number generator-ness of like, what the hell was that, skeletal mage? That's not the one I wanted. I wanted the third mage there. And now you're in a useless position and you'll never get used.
I dig. Okay. There's been some really good level 20s recently.
And level 20 fights are very decisive, and I think that the power spikes are well warranted for the type of game we have. I don't feel like we're in a situation with so many ridiculous abilities, even so, that they are too powerful or deciding the games wrongfully. You still need an avenue of victory that you got through that objective or an earlier push. It's so easy for me to go through this list and just say, bam, Alarak treatment, bam, Alarak treatment. Leoric, you get both abilities. How cool would that be? Entomb, March of the Black King, march down your own Entomb. Any hero would feel really cool. There's probably a couple that would just be absurdly broken. Like probably healers are one, like Whitemane having both of those, probably not a good idea.
Yeah. But yeah, they could probably find a bundle of heroes, right, where that would not be too problematic.
Right. The trade-off for Rexar and Boars is so great of losing that route that situation's interesting.
Yeah. Listen, it's our job just to... The question was, what would you like to see, not what would be perfectly balanced.
Exactly.
So, I like it. Thank you for this, Sky Boobs. This was fun. Keep your emails coming, everybody. itncast@gmail.com. If you're a patron, drop us a message directly in the patron Discord. And if you're a patron, we'll see you tonight for the Bonanza games. We'll also thank you again for supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. And a huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, Chris K., and Sean B. You can catch us live Thursdays over at twitch.tv/AMOVTV. Come be a part of our lovely live chat. They're wonderful people. Most of them. There's one person. You know who you are.
Oh, my.
That I like more than the others. Yeah, that's not how you... Not where you thought I was going with that.
That was nice.
Yeah, you can follow the show on Twitter at ITNcast. And other than that, Kyle, dude, where can people find you and maybe me doing other things?
Oh, that's true. Well, first of all, you should check out twitch.tv/Kyle Fergusson, where we've been playing and streaming Valheim, coming up on our third boss in that game, as well as a beautiful decorating project presented every week. Not guaranteed, of course, but it's just what we do.
Dude, you moved me to pixelated tears.
We have a lovely bedroom. You should also check out KyleFergusson.com, where you can find everything I do, including There Will Be Dungeons on the Frog Pants Networks. Links to that over there. The final episode of Season 1 and its bombastic conclusion happens this Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time at twitch.tv/frogpants. Don't miss it.
Sick. I'm on Twitter at Garrett Art. That's where you can follow me. Also, this podcast and every single one that I produce can be found at amove.tv. Got the Angry Chicken for Hearthstone. There's a few things happening over there. I don't know if you heard. Really liking it right now. There's also WoW Killer for World of Warcraft, where I hang out with Taliesin and we talk about World of Warcraft. We did a new one is up today, hot off the digital presses. That doesn't make any sense. It's an audio program. You wouldn't press audio. It could be a vinyl. Could be a vinyl. Yeah. Anyway, WoW Killer, The Angry Chicken, this show. Go check it out. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much for hanging out, everybody. Thank you for watching. Patrons, again, we'll see you tonight for our monthly Patron Bonanza. But until next time, good luck and have fun, everyone.
Take care.